team like Kyrie and KD. Or the Lake Show with King James and AD. Wish I could match him up with the bad boys from the 80s. But no black and white, I need that in HD. HenDawgz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy HenDawgz, and we back to it. You know how we do it. Another day, another Making the Case video. This is the last one. The last Making the Case video, man. Last but not least, Tim Duncan. And I had to put my Kobe jersey on, because again, I'm feeling some type of way that LeBron has a Making the Case video and Tim Duncan has a Making the Case video, but my guy Kobe don't. So both times I react to Tim Duncan and LeBron, I had to put my Kobe jersey on, man. And shout out to Jersey Nation. Shout out to Jersey Nation for the jersey. I got a bunch more jerseys coming in, man. It's gonna be crazy, so stay tuned for those. If y'all want to get some of the most exclusive jerseys, go ahead and check out jerseynation.com. Got some of the best unique jerseys out right now, so go check them out. But yeah, Making the Case Tim Duncan. It's crazy because I was always a little biased. You know, he was pretty much in the league the same amount of time that Kobe was in the league, so I guess I was always kind of, rebellious against, I don't know if rebellious is the right word, but it was just always just like, Tim Duncan is not this good. Like, he just can't be. He's just too basic. He's just too quiet. There's just no way he's this good, man. But after everything is over, looking back at all those years where he was battling against Kobe and the mid 2000s, just during that time, man, I gotta get Tim Duncan his respect. Like, he was the top guy. He was one of the top guys every single year. The numbers don't lie. The production, like, he was there, man. He was undeniable. So I guess you gotta consider him one of the greatest. But let's get into this video. Let's kind of see what Clayton Crowley gonna say about Tim Duncan. Shout out to Clayton Crowley. He got some of the best videos on the market. And shout out to anybody that's watched all 8 of my videos. If you watched all 8, put in the comments that you watched it, man. It's gonna be a trust system, because there's really no way that I can go back and to really check that to see if you're lying or not. But it's gonna be a trust system, man. If you watched all 8 of my Making the Case videos, write something in the comments, man, and shout out to you. But let's get into the last one. We got Making the Case Tim Duncan. Let's get it.
The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity. Flair.
So Tim Duncan was better than Hakeem, y'all? Hakeem don't have one of these. So Tim Duncan is better than Kobe Bryant and Hakeem? Let me know in the comments right now. Is that right?
And athleticism.
Hey!
And although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested question in the sport. Who's the greatest to ever do it? For many, the question is redundant.
I'm about to ask that question in the community channel right now.
Their answer.
Hakeem or Tim
Others
Duncan?
might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. By my count, there are 8 players in NBA history that have a substantial claim as the GOAT. It's a subjective thing, though. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can do is make the argument. So today, I'll be making the case for Tim Duncan as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Let me get my picture. I gotta get my thumbnail, y'all know.
I know what you're thinking. No way. There's no chance Tim Duncan is the GOAT. He's not even the best player of his generation, you might say. You're thinking there's no way Tim Duncan belongs in the same company as some of the other players that I'll talk about in this series. And if you believe that, there's probably 3 things you'll bring up as I make this argument. Number 1, his second act. If you're the kind of person who rates players through spreadsheets, his career in the 2010s is statistically underwhelming. Number 2, his peak. You might say that Duncan never had a real peak where he was the most dominant player in the league night in and night out like Shaq was. And number 3, Greg Popovich. Duncan has always had Pop, arguably the greatest coach of all time, in his corner. I hear you, and I promise to address those throughout this video as they become relevant. For now, let's do what we do with every other basketball player when we talk about them historically and look at Duncan's numbers. Here are the notable accolades from his NBA career. His 5 championships are more than Larry Bird or Wilt Chamberlain. His 15 all-defensive selections are the most of anybody ever. His 15 All-Star appearances are tied for 3rd all-time. He has as many regular season MVPs as Kobe and Shaq combined, and only Michael Jordan has more Finals MVPs. Don't forget about his college accomplishments though, because remember, Duncan came out of Wake Forest after 4 years, despite people like Jerry West who said he could have been the number 1 overall pick had he left after his sophomore year. Instead, by the end of his collegiate career, he was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time ACC Player of the Year, 2-time Consensus All-American, and was the National Player of the Year his senior season. And by the time he heard his name called on draft night, he was college basketball's all-time leader in rebounds.
So for that Naismith Player of the Year, y'all, can somebody go look at that list and kind of just give me a breakdown? Let's say starting with 1997. You know, the last 20 plus years. Would you say that every single player that won that ended up having a decent career in the NBA? I'm actually curious. I'm not sure. I think like players like Tyler Hansbrough or some players like that probably won that award. And I know this video is about Tim Duncan, but I'm actually curious about all the different Naismith Player of the Years and those players and how they ended up in the NBA, because I feel like it's one thing to, you know, get that award in college. And I feel like a lot of players, you know, that's pretty much the highlight of their careers. Like they get that Player of the Year and then they pretty much never do anything in the NBA. So I feel like just to be able to do that, to get that award in college, you know, Tim Duncan, so basically you put on this high pedestal. So I'm pretty sure he was the number 1 pick or, you know, top 10, top 5 pick, whatever Tim Duncan was, I'm not sure. But the fact that you can, you know, be super dominant in college and then translate that to the NBA is just kind of just like a testament to the hard work and like longevity of a player. Like it's crazy. He was good for a very long time. But let me know what y'all think about that.
This snapshot of his basketball career should be enough to have him at the table of the GOAT conversation.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're not totally sold though. We need more numbers. To look at his career further, we should examine his place on some of the all-time leaderboards. Here's where he ranks all-time in some of the major statistical categories. There's some impressive stuff here, but for the most part, it doesn't really jump off the page at you. His career totals are substantially less impressive than other players at his position, like Kevin Garnett, Karl Malone, or Dirk Nowitzki. And that's because you can't judge Tim Duncan's numbers like you can with most players. Imagine,
why is that?
In 15 years, if somebody said to you that Russell Westbrook was better than Steph Curry, citing how many points, assists, and rebounds Westbrook had, you'd laugh, right? Because you know that numbers don't always tell the full story.
That's a good point. So numbers do lie sometimes. But hey, is anybody in the comments that will say that Westbrook? Well, I don't even want to say in the comments. So is there anybody out there that is saying that Westbrook is better than Steph Curry because of his numbers? Let me know in the comments.
Yeah, Steph Curry has impressive numbers, but Westbrook's are unbelievable. It would be impossible and irresponsible of me to talk about these players without mentioning the data that exists with them. But by measuring players purely by their basketball reference page, you're leaving out the context and the story in which those numbers were achieved.
That's a good point.
That context is what makes those numbers meaningful, and it's what makes basketball worth following. Such is the case with Tim Duncan, whose success and greatness transcend a box score. You can't judge Tim Duncan with numbers alone. The fact of the matter is that if you ran a team and you could pick from any NBA player to ever play the game, and your goal was to set your team up for success, you would pick Tim Duncan. For one, you have his play on the court, and we are going to talk about some numbers here for a little while. Offensively, he was dominant through the first 10 years of his career. From 98 to 08, he averaged 21.6 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 3.1 assists.
I think for me, what makes Tim Duncan so great was how dependable he was. It wasn't, you know, like he said, it wasn't like he had these outstanding stats, you know, where he was averaging 40 and 20, like he was just going crazy, but it was just like that dependent, being super dependable. like as a Laker fan, diehard Laker fan, like we going against the Spurs every year. They're always that top team. Like it's just like no matter what, you know you're gonna have to run into the Spurs, and it's a chance that you're gonna lose because of how great this center is that they have out there. Like he's gonna give you that 20 and 10 every single night. He's gonna be in the right position. He's gonna have the right attitude, the right mentality every game. Like he's very, very dependable, man. And I feel like because of that, you gotta put him as one of the GOATs. But let me know what y'all think about that.
While playing on one of the slowest teams in the league. In that span, his teams never once ranked in the top half of the league for pace. If you adjust his stats for pace and look at his numbers per 100 possessions, you're looking at a big man who is every bit as productive as any other offensive player in the league at the time. You already know about his skill set. He was, after all, the big fundamental. He could pass out of double teams, face up and break down the defense with surprising agility, consistently knock down shots from the elbows, and torch any big man in the league with his array of moves in the post and subtly imposing physicality. He could masterfully run a pick and roll with any guard with working limbs, and of course, he had his signature bank shot, one of the most consistent and reliable shots of all time, along with Kareem's skyhook and Dirk's fadeaway.
I feel like the only people that really like get or understand how great he was those bigs that had to guard him. Because the eye test, us watching. I mean, he's like I said, he's good. I had to really wait, 10 years for him to be out the league to go back and appreciate the game. But like, I know those people that was in the moment, those bigs that was guarding, probably was the only ones that was like, this guy is really, really good. Because it's just like, it didn't look good. Like, it didn't look flashy. It didn't look like, that he really, had it like that.
Those skills never deteriorated throughout his career, save perhaps his final year. And that's where I want to tackle the idea that his second act was unexceptional. His scoring numbers dipped in his last 8 years, where he never averaged over 20 points per game again. But as the Spurs offense became more collaborative and free-flowing, Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili shouldered more of that scoring burden as Duncan aged. His shot attempts fell, though he remained efficient. His skills hadn't waned, the Spurs just didn't need him to score 28 points every night. He retained his role of alpha dog and contributed in other facets of the game. He could pick his spots, put his teammates in position to succeed, and save himself undue punishment and wear until it was needed. That's why, in 2013, at the age of 36, he became the oldest player ever named to first-team All-NBA. Duncan was never a prolific scorer, even in his prime. His game was never predicated on gaudy point totals like Malone or Dirk. With a different offense, he took fewer shots. With fewer shots, he scored fewer points. The whole time, though, he remained the whole package. He was a tremendous rebounder, the go-to guy in crunch time, and don't forget, the best defender, maybe ever.
That was one thing I was just about to say that I didn't really realize how great of a defender he was. They said he had 15 all defensive selections. Like, that's crazy. And I know it wasn't all just getting blocks or, getting steals. Like, it was him being in the right position. Him being the anchor to a very, very great defense with the Spurs. I'm sure the Spurs' defensive numbers was crazy. So the fact that he was the anchor of that, he was the main guy, within that, was the reason why he had all these defensive selections. But it's something I didn't really notice.
And that's what hurt his stats, more than anything. The lack of flashy numbers for defense outside of blocks and steals. It's so hard to measure how much a drive was cut off because of his presence, or a shot that was altered because of his contention.
Just being an anchor.
There are some advanced metrics that attempt to do this, and although it's an inexact science, stats like defensive rating, defensive win shares, and plus-minus numbers do an admirable job of capturing the game's best ball stoppers. Duncan's place in those metrics is unmatched. These metrics, along with his 15 defensive selections, serve as a testament to how Duncan thrived when the opponent had the ball. Legendary basketball writer Jack McCollum wrote for SI after Duncan's retirement. Duncan guarded centers and power forwards, sometimes even small forwards, with equal success. And as the NBA became more and more of a high pick-and-roll game, Duncan accepted the extra responsibility of getting involved at the perimeter while never abandoning basket responsibility. Nobody was better than Duncan at being both an advanced guard and the final fortress. Nate Silver's 538, a website that works with data and statistical analysis in every realm from politics to sports, published this article by Neil Payne. In it, Payne collects several data points on offensive and defensive prowess in order to come up with a player's WAR value, or wins above replacement. In other words, how much better were you than an average player?
So I mean, I guess according to the making the case situations, Kevin Garnett didn't have one. But who y'all think is better, Tim Duncan or Kevin Garnett? Let me know in the comments. If you think it's Tim Duncan, let me know why. If you think it's Kevin Garnett, let me know why. That picture kind of made me want to do that comparison because I feel like they both was the top, especially in my generation. Watching growing up, in high school, these were the guys I was watching. Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett. So let me know in the comments which one y'all think was better and why.
Payne's war valued balance above all else. Players who succeeded at both ends of the floor. Tim Duncan was the leader by a mile. What does all of this mean? It means that Tim Duncan was a tremendous offensive player despite the lack of volume and one of, if not the, greatest defenders of all time. In short, his value as a two-way player is virtually unmatched in the last 50 years of NBA basketball. Alright, so enough with the numbers for right now. I want to talk about Tim Duncan when it mattered the most, the playoffs. And I want to use this time to dispute the idea that he doesn't belong in this conversation because he never had a transcendent peak. You can look at any numbers, read any article, talk to any fan who paid attention to the game at the time, and you'll come to the same conclusion. Tim Duncan was a killer in the playoffs. Nearly all of his most memorable performances came in the postseason, and more often than not, came in crucial games when his team needed him most. From his near quadruple-double in 2003 to close out the Nets and earn his second championship, to his 25-point first half against the Heat in Game 6 of the 2013 Finals 10 years later, there was never a moment too big for Duncan. Here are some of his playoff rankings, significantly higher in almost every category than he is in the regular season. His 99 championship run was phenomenal, where he tore through a young Kevin Garnett, the newly assembled Kobe Shaq Lakers, Rasheed Wallace's Trailblazers, and the Patrick Ewing-less 8-seed Knicks on his way to being named the second youngest Finals MVP ever. His 2002 campaign was incredibly underrated, as he carried one of the worst teams of his career to 60 wins and outplayed Shaq before being beaten by the two-time champs. His 2003 season was his best season, and we'll talk more about it in a second. Just know that his running mate, David Robinson, averaged 8.5 points and 8 rebounds in the regular season, and that Duncan's win shares in that playoff run remained the most of anybody in a single postseason. In the mid to late 2000s, Duncan's Spurs remained a fixture in the playoffs, against competition like Dirk's Mavs, Nash's Suns, and Kobe's Lakers. He repaid them with 2 more titles in 05 and 07. He also gave us one of the clutch shots of his career in Game 1 against the Suns in 2008 with this.
Over him. O'Neal with the help. Takes it to the basket.
I remember this.
Puts it up. Let's go.
I remember that.
Like I said earlier, in Game 6 of the 2013 Finals, at age 36, playing against Wade, Bosh, and Apex LeBron on the road, Duncan put up 25 points in the first half. It would have gone down as an all-time series-clinching performance had it not been for...
Oh, shit, that was this? Greatest shot of all time right there, y'all? Is that Ray Allen shot? It gotta be top 3, top 5. Let me know where that shot ranks at in your favorite shots of all time. Let me know.
Looking for revenge in the 2014 Finals, Duncan set the tone in Game 1 with a classic 21-10 game, while shooting 9 of 10 from the field. As his final playoff hurrah in 2015, trying to defend the title at the ripe age of 38 in Game 7 of a first-round series against the Clippers, Duncan reached all the way back and put up 27 and 11, sinking crucial free throws to tie it before Chris Paul delivered this. The same Tim Duncan that was giving the business to a 22-year-old Kevin Garnett was the same Tim Duncan that was taking a 26-year-old DeAndre Jordan to school.
So what was the age difference between KG and Tim Duncan? They said that he was giving a 22-year-old Kevin Garnett the blues, but how old was Tim Duncan at that time? I didn't think there was that much of a difference, though. Let me know.
He was ready to win championships from the day he entered the league to the day he left it. And I think that's why his peak is used against him as an argument here. The fact that his championship window lasted his entire 19-year career and that his teams were always somewhere between 50 and 60 wins meant that it's hard for any one of his seasons to stand out from the rest. And for some unfathomable reason, being consistently great is less of an accomplishment than being great for short stints. Like I said, his 2003 season was his best. After leading his team to 60 wins and his second consecutive MVP, Duncan eviscerated everything in his path as he tore through the playoffs. He upended the Suns, ended the Lakers' 3-year reign as champions, and outdueled Dirk before absolutely torching the Nets in the finals.
That was nasty, Tim.
By the time he was holding the trophy, it was clear beyond a shadow of a doubt that Duncan was the league's best, most complete player. Here's what the Ringer's Chris Ryan had to say about 2003 Tim Duncan.
We think about the Spurs now as this international house of aesthetically pleasing basketball. They were Terminators back then, and they were squeezing the life out of the game because they were just too good.
Speaking of international, my girlfriend went out to Barcelona probably like last year and brought me this hat back. Give me some good stuff about Barcelona. I know this is a segue, it's like a little commercial break, but I want y'all to kind of give me a little information on Barcelona, because when she went out there, she was like, this is one of the best places ever. Like, we got to come out here. So if y'all think I should go out to Barcelona, let me know in the comments why, because I hear some good things about Barcelona.
They were too good. They were military in their precision. They were unflappable. They were dirty. And Duncan was the perfect avatar of all of it. You go back and watch him now. It's unbelievable the physical contact that he's absorbing in these series against New Jersey, whoever else they were playing against. And it was just routine that you'd see him put up 20 and 20s and barely break a sweat, much less a smile.
I'd be lying if I said that Duncan's peak was higher than Shaq's. But I also wouldn't feel comfortable saying that the difference between the two is great enough for me to lose sleep over. To me, the truth is that Shaq was so much more of a spectacle. To watch peak Shaq was an experience unlike anything else. To see someone of his size and stature move so powerfully and fluidly is still something of a miracle. To see Duncan at the peak of his powers was a lot like seeing him 7 or 8 years later. He was just a little faster, a bit stronger, and a touch quicker. But do aesthetics denote superiority? I'd say no. And though Shaq in his prime was certainly a more dominant offensive player, there was never a time where he could match Duncan's abilities as a defender, leader, or a teammate.
Okay, you got the number one pick. Number one pick in the draft. You right there that's watching. You the GM. You the GM of the team. You know, they coming to you for this draft pick. You only can pick Shaq in his prime or Tim Duncan in his prime. Who you picking? Let me know in the comments, man. Let me know. I feel like it's so hard to go against Shaq, but Shaq don't got to make in the case video. So let me know what y'all think, man. Let me know who y'all picking.
Two are the antithesis of each other. Shaq loves fame. Duncan loathes it. Shaq would sometimes show up to training camp out of shape, often battled with his co-stars, and finished his career having played for 6 different teams. Duncan took great care of his body, cemented himself as the cornerstone of his franchise, and is one of the most celebrated teammates in NBA history. Shaq left a little on the table. You could never say the same about Duncan. Shaq cared a little too much about what everyone thought about him, while Duncan couldn't have cared less. And while I'm at it, addressing the points of criticism, let's go ahead and tackle Pop. Pop, to me, is the greatest coach there ever was. But he would be the first one to tell you that he wouldn't be here without Tim Duncan. For one, Duncan can play any style of basketball, in any era. You want to go old school, slow pace, dump it off to the big man down low, let him bang, and be solid on defense? Titles. Remove the hand checking and illegal defenses, increase scoring, and start moving toward the perimeter? Titles. The league goes small ball, the pace explodes, and shooting and ball movement is more important than anything? The largest margin of victory in NBA Finals history. Second, he can play with any team. Honestly, has any superstar done more with less? Jordan had Pippen his entire run and Rodman for the last half.
I think that's kind of a reason why I might go with Tim Duncan. I'm still talking about that Shaq and Tim Duncan draft. It's like I said, it's tough to go against Shaq, but the fact that it doesn't really matter who else you have on your team, Tim Duncan gonna be good. So you don't need to kind of revolve your offense around Tim Duncan because he's that great of a player. He can kind of get in where he fit in. Where Shaq, if you got Shaq out there, man, you pretty much the offense has to revolve around, which it should be. You have Shaq, like it shouldn't be revolved around nobody else. But the fact that you can have a superstar talent player, Hall of Famer like Tim Duncan, and not need to revolve it around him, I think that might give him the edge. But I don't know. Let me know. Let me know in the comments, y'all.
Bird had McHale and Parrish. Wilt had West and Hal Greer. Russell had Cousy, Jones, and Havlicek. Magic had Kareem and vice versa. Kobe had Shaq and vice versa. And LeBron has had Wade, Kyrie, and Anthony Davis. Duncan's best teammates, old David Robinson, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, combined for 5 third-team All-NBA appearances and 4 second-team appearances during their time with Duncan. Parker and Ginobili are long shots for the Hall of Fame, and even though Robinson's in it, you wouldn't say that he was playing at a Hall of Fame level alongside Duncan. Third and most importantly, Duncan forged the culture of the Spurs. Pop was essential in acquiring players and reinforcing the culture that Tim wanted, but Duncan was truly the most vital component. The NBA is a star-driven league, and finding a great player who hasn't gotten a coach fired is like finding a good Star Wars movie. They're few and far between. Not only did Duncan not get Pop fired, he let Pop coach him harder than any superstar ever. If Tim had ever thought to himself, you know what, I don't feel like getting my chops roasted in front of the whole team today because I didn't box out right in practice, he could have gone right to R.C. Buford and Pop would have been gone. End of story.
Dang,
But Tim understood.
It looked crazy seeing Greg Popovich cussing out Kawhi Leonard. That looks super crazy, but that's what they said. They said Tim Duncan was openly okay with Greg Popovich cussing him out. You know, that doesn't really happen too much with superstars. There ain't too many coaches cussing LeBron out. Like, that don't really happen. That's not the type of way I think LeBron wants to be coached. But Tim Duncan was okay with it. You know, and I think that's the reason why Spurs was able to create this culture of playing so hard, playing the right way. Because, like, hey, if our superstar Hall of Famer gonna get his ass cussed out, we for sure gonna get cussed out if we don't make the right plays. So let's play the game the right way so we don't get cussed out. And it worked. It worked.
What Pop was about and trusted him enough to be mentored in an unprecedented way. He set the example for his teammates that no one is immune to criticism and that it's expected of everyone to leave their egos at the door.
Exactly.
In 2017, the Spurs SB Nation blog Pounding the Rock spoke to Sam Walker, author of The Captain Class, a book which examines winning culture in sports, from field hockey to rugby. In an exchange, Walker said this: "The book's main conclusion is that the only one factor that must be present in order to maintain greatness over a long period of time is the presence of a particular kind of selfless, relentless, independent-minded, publicity-averse, emotionally composed captain with strong communication skills. And that's Duncan. Duncan was a pure example of the species." I love Pop, but I have to believe that Tim Duncan was the catalyst that empowered Pop to be what he is now. This isn't Belichick Brady where you wonder who made who. Pop is the greatest coach of all time because of Tim Duncan.
Is he? Let me know in the comments. Was Greg Popovich the greatest coach of all time? Actually, give me y'all top 5 coaches of all time. I gotta give it to Phil. I might be a little biased because he was with the Lakers and the Bulls, but I might have to give that nod to Phil Jackson. But let me know in the comments. Give me y'all top 5 coaches of all time. Write them in the comments for me.
Who made who? Pop is the greatest coach of all time because of Tim Duncan. If you want to try to take credit away from Duncan by saying that he played for the best teams, you might be right, but only because he made them the best team. He gave up touches, let other guys hold the torch, put everyone around him in the best position to succeed, and he enjoyed it when they did. When I said earlier that the thing that hurt Duncan's stats more than anything was a lack of defensive numbers, I lied. The thing that hurt Duncan's stats more than anything was the fact that he never gave a shit about stats or awards. Ever. He wanted his teams to succeed and he wanted to win. That's it. Just listen to the way his teammates talk about him. I don't think there's a more beloved teammate than Tim Duncan. In the words of NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, his understated selflessness made him the ultimate teammate. He was always the big brother, correcting them when they made mistakes and throwing his arm around their shoulders when things didn't go their way. He led in the most effective way possible, not with subtweeting, bombastic words, or showy halftime speeches, but by example. Of all the end-of-career farewell wishes, this is the one that stuck out to me the most. From his former teammate, Brent Bones Berry. He quoted Mark Twain, saying, "To be good is noble, but to show others how to be good is nobler and no trouble. For your brilliance, TD, I am grateful. For your skills as a player, I am in awe. And for your friendship, I am honored."
That's 100.
Milwaukee Bucks coach and former Spurs assistant Mike Budenholzer said to ESPN's Kevin Arnovitz, The magnitude of that, the number of people in this
I didn't
league
know he
who have
was a
enjoyed
assistant
opportunity
coach
or
for the
found
Spurs.
fortunate spots in the league, you can trace it all back to this one guy, to the way Timmy played ball and the way he conducted himself. The culture is Timmy. The NBA is a league of superstars and dynasties, from Russell to Jordan, from Chamberlain to LeBron. We remember
Kobe?
its history
Oh,
through
okay.
its champions.
My bad.
And in the history of North American sports, no one has been as good for as long as the Spurs. San Antonio's success is completely unprecedented in the world of basketball. Aside from his lockout-shortened sophomore season, Duncan won 50 or more games and qualified for the playoffs in every season of his career.
That's
He finished
crazy.
his career with a win percentage of 71%, the highest of anyone, in any sport.
That is not true.
The Spurs' run of success started in 1997, the year they drafted Tim Duncan. Since then, he has been the cornerstone, the engine of the franchise that has perpetually defined what winning culture looks like in and outside of basketball. And so I say again, if you ran a team and you could pick any NBA player from any era of basketball and your goal was to win, you would pick Tim Duncan. His abilities as a basketball
Damn.
player are what made him a superstar. But his consistency, willingness to be coached, love and support of his teammates, and humility are the things that make him transcendent. I'll let Pop have the last word. Here he is after Tim Duncan announced his retirement.
You know, everybody always talks about who they like to eat dinner with. You know, if you had one night you could go to dinner, go to lunch with so-and-so, who would you like to do it with? And people say, you know, Mother Teresa and Jesus and Dalai Lama. And, okay, I get it. And I can honestly tell you, my dinner would be with Timmy.
You about to cry.
And it would be because he's the most real, consistent, true person I've ever met in my life.
Damn.
Hey,
That's high praise from one of the greatest coaches of all time. Somebody who doesn't really talk like that. I've never really seen Greg Popovich be so passionate about something like that. So that's crazy. That's crazy. But I hope y'all enjoyed that video. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel if y'all haven't. Shout out to everybody that's watched all 8 of my Making the Case videos. Make sure y'all like this video if y'all like this video. And go ahead and write in the comments where Tim Duncan ranks at in your all-time list. But I appreciate y'all, man. Stay tuned for more videos. They're on the way. But we out.